welcome to the Sports Skillet radio show. We want to thank you for tuning in this week. We appreciate it. However you are finding us, whether it be on Facebook, on Periscope, on any of the Heat Ratios, social media channels, we appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend it with the Sports Skillet radio show. Thank you so much. Reminder, we do this every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. But if you're joining us after that, thank you again for, taking time out of your busy schedule and participating in the Sports Skillet radio show. Reminder, we can see your comments, so feel free to comment on anything in the world of sports, from pro wrestling to baseball to basketball to hockey. We cover it all here on the Sports Skillet radio show. I am Jay. I am joined this week by Mike Nebbia, and as always, the coach, Shane McGowan. Shane, can you let everybody know how they can find you?
Yes, sir. Great to be on. You can reach me at mentaledgeperformance.ca as well as mental_edge_performance on social media. So let's get to this, Jay. We got a lot to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. I know we'll get to the Sixers. I'm going to put that off for a moment. But let's start off with MLB. Mike, the Phillies have been playing the Mets this weekend in a divisional showdown. And right now, the Phillies don't look so good, Mike. What do you think about your New York Mets?
Man, the Mets have been playing like a combination of the 1990 White Sox and the 2015 Mets. Clutch hitting, timely defense, great pitching. Man, I haven't seen the Mets this good in quite a while. I hope they can keep it up into the late summer and into the rest of the season.
Yeah, I tell you, Mike, the Phillies came into this series with the New York Mets having the opportunity to really close the gap between them. And here we sit on Sunday, and let me check. And right now, the Phillies are, hold on a second, as we look at the standings here, are right now 5 games behind the New York Mets, and they sit 7.5 out of the wild card. It's just been a frustrating series for the Phillies. You look at them, and they're playing toe-to-toe with the Mets, but the defense, once again, has been killing them, especially late in the game. We look at yesterday's game. They had Hector Neris come in. Reese Hoskins commits a costly error. I don't know if it bothered him or not, but then he walks the next couple of batters, and the Mets end up taking the game. Just a brutal outing by their closer. And right now, the Phillies have a closer by committee. And Shane, I don't know if a baseball team can survive a closer by committee.
No.
What do you think?
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing. Your Phillies are actually 6.5 games behind.
6.5. Yep.
That's 8.5 in the wild card as well. Yeah. So I mean, they're sinking. They're sinking a lot right now. And you're right. When you look at their play, and that's what I brought up, in part of the comments, was saying, like, what are the fans feeling right now? I mean, how much are you looking and saying, listen, we can rebound back in the next little bit and at least get competitive enough to get ourselves close to this? Or are we like really sinking and it's time to bail off this ship and figure out what you got to do for next season? Because like I said, it's not a pretty sight this far, and the way that they're losing too, that's another big thing, right? It comes down to, you may lose a game, all right, which is understandable, but how did you lose that game? You're right. Was it from the bullpen? Was it from the pitching? Was it from the bad hitting? Was it just sloppiness out there? I mean, you can take every little thing, but what is it that's been consistent that this team is losing? And that's where I'll throw that question back at you guys: is why is this team losing, and what's it coming from?
A large part is coming from the defense, and that's one of the things I wanted to bring up with you. We saw a costly error by Alec Boehm, I believe it was Friday, and and he allows the tying run to score off of his error. And you can see he squats down on the field, puts the glove in front of his face. The Phillies gave him Saturday off. How does he? You're a mental game coach. When you commit a costly error like that allows a tying run to score, Shane, how do you rebound? How does a player rebound from something like that?
Well, this is the thing, and that's why I brought it up, is that this team is being more distracted than ever. Something that the lack of focus, and they're losing it throughout the innings. You know what I mean? It's not like it's like right off the hop where, okay, we're nervous, we want to do well, etc. And yeah, make a couple little errors, but we're getting it out of us. It's throughout the game. They're just losing that focus, and the distractions are happening too much to them that they can't play consistent ball out there, the way they should be. They're not playing their position. I think what's happening is he's overthinking. He's overthinking the play too much on something that's right there. And a lot of these, as they say, errors that do happen sometimes is the fact that that player is overthinking too much. And as soon as you do that, it's going to wipe you out. And so, like I said, right now, these guys got to reset a lot faster up there. They need to refocus themselves. That manager and everybody in that clubhouse needs to get on that same page, right? And understand you win as a team, you lose as a team, but they actually got to start cheering each other on a little bit more too. I think that's a big thing. I think the morality in that bullpen is just kind of coming down. I think that clubhouse is more of a dark cloud over them because of the way that they've been losing and things like that. And the only thing that's going to really help these guys in many ways is that big bounce back type of a game. You know what I mean? Where you're getting everybody out there playing really, really well and playing consistent. And I think when you start getting that, it becomes that domino effect where energy is contagious. And I just don't see anybody right now on that team with that enthusiasm, energy, anything like this to get that team rolling. And until somebody steps up, and this is where you always say, well, where's the leaders? Where's the big guys up there to get this team going? I'm not seeing that right now. And that's something that they got to look at too, because you're going to get these silly errors because of that if these guys don't step up.
I completely agree with you, Shane. And the other thing with the Phillies is you look at the division, and the division is winnable, but you have a team that's kind of caught in the crosshairs a little bit. And I think Bryce Harper brought this up earlier in the week where he came out and he actually said something along the lines of, well, we don't have the young guys coming up. So the minor league system isn't replenishing the major league roster. And you got some guys on the roster that aren't like an Alex Bohm, like a Reese Hoskins, that maybe aren't really living up to their expectations. So they're kind of caught in that crosshair a little bit where the division is winnable. So do we go out and we try to win the division, or do we sell out and start to rebuild? But you don't really have a lot of pieces that Dave Dombrowski can trade. They're caught in that little crosshair a little bit, They
overplayed their hand. Yeah. They overplayed their hand many years ago with their trades and the big price tags and everything like that, right? So you don't have much when it comes to those assets to give up, to get away, and to bring something in. So now you got to find that balancing act. And you're absolutely correct. The young guys that they have there, almost like I said, they're not being mentored in that way from these other ones to say, okay, boys, let's go out there. This is what you got to do. This is your game. This is how you play it. You know what I mean? And just take it that way and be a little bit more in control. But I'll put that out there to the leaders in that clubhouse and saying, it's up to you guys too. In this particular time, when your team, and here's the thing, and we've seen this happen, don't get on them right now to get them more involved, more enthusiastic, and understand the era is gone, that game is gone. Look to this one right now. They're going to still keep sinking. So they got to pick up that. They got to get that right back on the roll. And if they can do that, I think they can get a little bit more productive in some ways. You know what I mean? And you might get someone that might be all of a sudden out of the blue being the hot shot of the team that you just didn't expect, right? Because he feels that good. And this is something, like I said, but if they don't do this now, like it's just they're gonna go to 6.5, 7 games, 8 games down and stuff. And they can't do that.
I agree. And I think they've been playing the Mets, and they've been playing the Mets toe to toe. They had a winnable game yesterday against. They had a winnable game against DeGrom, and they let that slip away. And you look at the game that Aaron Nola pitched, Mike, tying Tom Seaver's record, 10 strikeouts in a row.
Yeah, thank heavens for Pete Alonso. Otherwise, he would have broken that record.
Yeah,
and again,
exactly.
Timely hitting by the Mets, timely defense by the Mets, gave the Mets that game.
Yeah, exactly. And but
it's 1990 Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, and you look at the Phillies, they had that excellent effort by Aaron Nola, 10 strikeouts in a row. He pitched his butt off, and it has to be, and it was kind of, in that doubleheader, and it had to be deflating. But they came out, they won game 2, which was good for them. But then they come out, and you saw the closer come in, and he was lights out, and then he comes in yesterday, and he blows, and he allows the error by Rhys Hoskins to affect him, I guess. And the other thing, you look at the managing of Joe Girardi, and he hasn't been all that great because you have to, with some of these with some of the Phillies relievers this year, they look good coming out of spring training, but they haven't lived up to expectations. And he didn't have anybody behind the closer yesterday warming up in the bullpen, which to me is unforgivable. Why can't you have these guys pitching back-to-back days? That's what they're there for. And, maybe not 3 days in a row, but you got to manage these guys so that they can pitch 2 games in a row. And I don't see this out of Girardi. I see him not warming guys up. I see him making these double switches that aren't working out. It's just, crazy. Whatever button Girardi pushes is the wrong one. And I have to question his managerial styling this year. We were expecting him to come in and be this lights out manager that's going to be that's going to lead the Phillies to a couple extra wins during the season because he'll be able to outmanage the other guy. We were really excited, but Shane, the thing with Girardi is I think he's been underwhelming, maybe last season and definitely this season.
He has gone so far down on that list of top guys, right, of managers because of how he's had this team playing. And you're absolutely correct. Strategy wise, here's my biggest thing is when you're up to bat on certain things like this, where's the strategy of a lot of these guys to get on base? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like it's gone out the wind. A lot of this stuff is not helping this team because they're not playing like that or thinking like that. And the analytics and everything, they know the type of pitcher that they're facing. They know the balls and strikes that are coming, how they got to hit it and everything like this. All right. There's no question about that. That is how the game is played. But for some reason, you're right. Girardi is not giving these guys that opportunity to study a little bit more and to get these base hits. How many times have you seen in a game with these Phillies that they've made good base hits, right? Just to get on base, to keep the flow going and everything like that. You're swinging and missing, or you're trying to go for the big home run. You know what I mean? Nothing is strategic. And I think that's a big thing when it comes to this team right now, is if they can play a little bit more strategic type of ball out there in this way, get themselves on base, start to get a little momentum going. Guess what? The rest of that team is feeling it, and they're ready to play. Yeah. But if you're just 3-0, done, 3-0, done, and you're out there forever because the other team's scoring on you, you know what I mean? It's like it's frustrating. And it's very frustrating for these players.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I don't think he's holding these players accountable, which is leading to the lackadaisical playing. I mean, I know that they're coming in and doing their fielding practice and all that, but I don't think in the clubhouse Girardi is holding these players accountable, and getting on these guys and
I don't see these guys being engaged. They're not engaged in the game. Especially in the bullpen, those guys are not engaged in the game as much as you'll see other teams and other bullpens warming up and practicing, watching and everything like that, looking at the innings and saying, okay, you know what? I can see how, as an example, my pitcher is kind of slowing it down just a little bit. Maybe a few more balls instead of the strikes and stuff like that. The speed is coming down. I'm getting ready. I'm more focused so that, guess what? The phone's ringing. I'm ready to go. You're not seeing that in the Phillies bullpen.
No, you're not. Not at all. I think you are seeing it in the Mets bullpen, aren't you, Mike?
I am seeing it in the Mets bullpen. The Mets bullpen is vastly improved from the past few seasons.
Yeah.
Edwin Diaz has vastly improved from his first few seasons in the Mets organization. And if they keep playing the way they have been playing, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with not only the rest of this season, but into the postseason should they make it. And they have a high likelihood of making it. I hope I'm not jinxing things here.
I hope you're not either. And I kind of agree with you. I think they got the pitching. I think they got the bullpen that can carry them. My only question with the Mets, Mike, is their offense. They haven't been scoring a ton of runs.
Yeah, they haven't been scoring much. But with their pitching, with their defense, they haven't needed to score much. Especially when DeGrom is pitching. They haven't needed to score much. But when they score for him, when they score at least 4 more runs in a game, they're basically unbeatable.
Yeah, I like them. Like I said, I like the Mets pitching. I like their bullpen. It's just their offense that I question about the New York Mets. Switching gears a little bit, we may go back to Major League Baseball, but switching gears a little bit, we had the Sixers drop out of the playoffs this week, Shane. And no longer will the Philadelphia 76ers be in the playoff. Once again, they reach round 2, and they have a playoff exit. They had a lead in a couple of games, and one of them was like a 28-point lead, ended up squashing that game. I mean, it's just incredible the way the Sixers caved, Shane.
Oh, it's the bags on the heads for the fans. I'll tell you that much.
I
mean, like I said, it was sad, pathetic, and absolutely exhausting watching that. How do you blow a 26-point lead when everybody's got their brooms out? We're gonna sweep. We're sweeping these teams. You got embarrassed. You know what I mean? In so many ways. And again, like I said, and the funniest thing was Doc Rivers. You bring him in as the big savior of everything. Yep. He has a lot to do with blaming of this team losing in so many ways, right? And that's something you got to look at too. And it's not just Simmons. Harris was awful out there. I felt sorry for Embiid for doing everything he could, and Seth Curry did the best he could in so many ways as well. But Doc could not manage this team the way he should have. And there's no way that you can blow a 26-point lead like that and just stink your ship. You know what I mean? And that was it. Especially to, like I said, a Hawks team that you felt that you had total control over. You know what I mean? And that was it. So, like I said, it was sad to see, but you're going to see, I think, as the rumor wire starts to fly and everything like that, there's a lot of gossip out there about where Ben may be heading, as well as a Tobias Harris. So don't count your chickens yet, because I got a feeling you may lose 2 of them for something as well. That
could be. I think Daryl Morey has his work cut out for him trying to trade Ben Simmons. See if you I'll go to both of you on this. With Ben Simmons, I actually think he may be part of the Sixers when they start the season, and he may get traded by the trading deadline. Reason being, my thought is that right now you're going to get pennies on the dollar for Ben Simmons. His trade value is totally at the bottom. I don't think it could be worse with the way he played in the series. Not taking jumpers, not taking shots, not even a dunk. I think may have cost the Sixers a game, the final game in this series. And I think his trade value is totally down. I think the regular season in the NBA is what it is. but I think it may be the Sixers may use that to kind of rebuild the stock in Ben Simmons, because if they have him on the roster during the regular season, he may. I mean, he's not going to fetch you probably a whole lot, but at least maybe if they have him on the roster at the beginning of the season, he may be able to play his defense and look better than what he looked in the playoffs. And maybe they get a little bit more for him at the trade deadline next season. But, right now his stock is totally at the bottom. What do you think, Shane?
No, see, this is the difference, is that I agree that his stock has dropped because of his offense. But here is the guy who was defensive, right? All number one defensive player in this way and the league and all this other stuff like that. That's the only saving grace for him in this way. Plus, again, too, is there is going to be a team that's going to take a chance and say, you know what, he needs a new outlook. He needs a fresh outlook, but he also needs that coach. He also needs that coach that is going to put that time in with him to make and take a chance with those shots and start shooting the way he should. Don't be surprised if there's also a package deal then too. You know what I mean? There might be a package deal, say Harris and Simmons for some quality, coming back too. It's something that's out there in that way. You can make a lot of little deals. Is his stock going to be higher during camp? I don't think so. I really don't. And that's why I don't think that he will be when camp starts with the Sixers. I think something's going to happen before that, just because I think the Sixers want their fans as well to say, okay, guys, look at what we've got coming in this season. Instead of saying, okay, guys, here's what we have, and it's still the same guys, and then we'll make a trade here. No. Do it from the start. And I think that team also wants to get a fresh start too. I think that team wants to look and say, okay, let's come out here. Let's have everybody that we need to get this ball rolling, instead of doing these at the beginning of camp or during camp or mid-season, whatever else like that. So like I said, there's a few pending free agents that are coming up from all over. And I just have a feeling personally myself that Ben will be gone before the start of next season.
What do you think, Mike?
I'm going to have to agree with Shane on this one here, Jay. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to have to agree with Shane.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Simmons was shipped out before the season. He's going to have a rough time coming off of the games that he played and being a Sixer at the start of the season. He's going to get booed when his name is announced, because a lot of that is falling on his shoulders. But like you brought up, Shane, a lot has to fall on Doc Rivers too. Now, do you think Doc Rivers survives this offseason?
Yeah, they'll keep Doc for another season because he got him to the second round, and they'll chalk it up. Put it this way: I think Doc gets the free pass on this one because of the fact of how Simmons actually played offensively. I think that's the only saving grace. If all those guys are playing well and they still lost, then there's a chance that, okay, we got to get rid of the coach type of thing or do something. But in this case, I think they're going to stay one more year consistent with Doc and see what they can bring in, and then say, here you go. Here's the team. You better make us get to the dang championship this time. You know what I mean? Or your job is gone. Yeah. And I think that's the way they'll play it on the Sixers side, just to give that one more opportunity for the coach. But like I said, I mean, in this whole series, pending injuries, yes, but everybody's banged up. Yeah. Trae Young was banged up with his shoulder, still constantly taking stuff off, and he's still icing you out there. You know what I mean? So he's doing, his game one against the Bucks so far, he did great. Last game, but I mean, we'll see what happens. But it's just one of those things where right now the Sixers need to look and say, okay, we need to get something for what we got here to bring in the talent we need to move further and farther ahead. Doc, you got one more year to get it together, but here's what we're going to get, and that's it. And like I said, I guarantee they're already checking to see who's up for grabs right now with contracts and everything and what can fit in. But, even giving up their own draft picks, etc.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Daryl Morey is going to make over this team. Again, he was brought in kind of later in the offseason, as was Doc. So I think Doc survives. I think exactly what you said. I think Doc survives. Like you said, they give him one more year to get things right. But, you know, you look at this season, it was all laid out for the Sixers. They had the number 1 seed. They had home court advantage throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs, and they still were not able to get – and as well as Embiid played through his injury, they were not able to figure out a way to get out of the second round. And that's been their bugaboo the last couple of seasons, and that's why they brought in Morey. That's why they brought in Doc. That's why they brought in Curry and remade the bench a little bit, brought in some really good, that I feel, assistant coaches because they brought in Doc. And these guys wanted to coach under Doc. And they had everything laid out for him this season, and they still were not able to get out of the second round. I wouldn't be surprised if Daryl Morey kind of remakes this team in the offseason. I think Curry probably survives, but like you said, I think Tobias Harris may be moved. I think Ben Simmons could be on the block, as well as some other players, as Morey really gets his hands dirty in the offseason and remakes this Sixers team.
I don't think he has a choice. I honestly don't think he has a choice but to do something, because the fans and the organization is saying, look, this is what we had. This is what we're going to have again if we keep everybody as is. Yeah. Well, we're not going to win. We're not going to make it past. And, I mean, Brooklyn, too, is shaking their heads at everything that transpired there, you know, as well. So, like I said, I just cannot see the Sixers not sitting there and allowing all these guys back into the start of the season without shaking it up a little bit to say that, you know what I mean? You can't be complacent like this. You have to be a little bit more aggressive, because other teams are too. And you have to go out there and get this talent. You got to get out there and get the guys that are going to fall into the offense that Doc Rivers wants too. Because for some reason, like I said, Doc put too much, you know, stock into Tobias and to Simmons. And when those guys weren't functioning well, you're pulling 2 of your starters off. I mean, that just Embiid is just getting exhausted to try to take this team on his shoulders. And yeah, you hope Seth can make some threes, but that's all he was trying to do. Well, if he's getting cold, you know, that's not going to help you. And then who do you pull? Who else are you going to bring in then, right? So, like I said, Maxey, you know, guy like that. But again, that's young development, but again, choked under the pressure in many ways too. So, like I said, you need to bring in. I look at a guy like Damian Lillard and all these other guys that have that talent, you know what I mean, that can take a game as well, more consistent than ever, offense and defensively, you know. And so, like I said, that's what I'm saying is Simmons and a Harris deal to get out and to bring in somebody that can actually help on that guard position and lead that team in ways, I think would be a benefit for not only Embiid, but also for the Sixers.
Yep. And looking beyond the Sixers a little bit into the NBA playoffs, you had Phoenix beating the LA Clippers last night to take a 3-1 lead in that series. I don't see the Clippers coming back, Shane. I think the Phoenix Suns will probably close it out in the next game. What do you think?
Well, hey, Phoenix has been favored from the get-go, you know what I mean? And the addition again with Chris Paul coming back. Last game he played quite a few minutes and stuff. And then finally he came out and started scoring and everything too. And Booker got on page a little bit better too. And I know that mask was bothering Booker at the beginning and things. But like I said, Clippers are just without Kawhi. I mean, they're relying on Reggie Jackson, they're relying on Terrence Mann, they're relying on all these other fellas. And Marcus Morris is banged up with his knee, you know what I mean? So that's another factor as well. So I'll give a huge credit to Ayton there for his play, not only the last game, right, but from the last second alley-oop dunks to how he's actually taken over when he's got the ball down low like that. I mean, really, the man is playing way above what's expected of him, and I think that's what's pushing this team to advance and move forward like that. So yeah, I just think it's the end of the LA era out there, and Phoenix is going to finally get their chance and move forward.
What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I think Phoenix finishes off the LA Clippers in 5 games. The Clippers without Kawhi, relying on Reggie Jackson, they can't do it. They can't do it without Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, and I think Shane, I think when the LA Clippers lose this series, I mean maybe they take the next game. I mean it was close last night. The Phoenix only won 84-80, but I think once the Clippers, maybe they take the next game, but I don't see the Clippers winning the series. And I think once the Clippers lose, you could like the Sixers, this LA Clippers team could get blown up. Because the owner really wants to win. And I think he's going to be very disappointed in the results of the Clippers. And the Clippers could look vastly different heading into next season.
Clippers are going to look different, no question about it. And you're right. There's a lot of money invested in that team. And you're right. That owner, you can see how wild he gets on the sidelines there when they've won, and also how disappointed he is when they've lost. So like I said, I see the Clippers making their adjustments. Either it's going to be, figuring out what's wrong with Kawhi, getting probably surgery on his knee or something like this, and saying, okay, we're going to ship you, you know what I mean, or whatever, and somebody's going to pick him up. There's no question about it. Kawhi can play. Yeah. It's not his fault that he's injured in this. But they have to get rid of one of them. And I also think you may, just like a Philadelphia situation, you may sweeten that deal by throwing in even like a Luke Kennard or someone like that with a Kawhi, and a Terrence Mann even, you know what I mean, to up your ante to get back in return some other talent as well, because that's the only way LA is going to be more competitive again too. They have to do this, and I think they're seeing the effects because Marcus Morris is banged up. He's getting up there. Batum, he hasn't been productive in this series either at all, and like I said, they need to bring out some players that play those positions at a faster pace and can keep up. And I think right now that's what they're going to be looking at.
I think so too. I absolutely agree with that. What do you think, Mike? Do you think the Clippers will get blown up if and when they lose the series?
They do. I think they have no choice but to blow everything up and start fresh because the owner wants to win. And he's going to be very disappointed if the Clippers end up losing to the Phoenix Suns.
I agree. And I think Shane, see if you agree with me on this. I think one of the things the Clippers did, they brought in Kawhi, and I think they expected Kawhi to be this really bold and really big team leader, and that's not really Kawhi's forte. Kawhi's a very good, Robin, if you will, second guy on the team. He is an all-star player, but I don't think he's that vocal team leader that you can build a team around.
No, I mean, look at Kawhi does his quietness out there, plays the game the way he knows how to. He will get you those points. He will get you the rebounds. He will get you the assists. The other guys on that team have to be that extra voice out there, and Kawhi actually probably blocks them out in the way they're talking. So you don't even need to worry about Kawhi. What you need to worry about is everybody else around you. Kawhi will find you, and that's it. Yeah. Simple as that for the assists and things like that. That's the problem, though, is that they relied on George to be that voice, okay, which is fine, and there's not a problem with that. And, Kawhi, George, both out there doing their thing and everything. It's the in-between. It's those other little pieces that just couldn't fit properly. And I think, again, too, is when you look at the Clippers, Ty Lue has made more adjustments, right, in these series to try to maximize what they're playing against. And if you've got to make that many adjustments on your rotation, on your roster to get the proper matchups over and over again, that means you're lacking the players that you need, because really your game should be like the Bucks. It should just be in that 8-man rotation, 9-man rotation. That's it. These are the players. I'm riding the starters for the 38 to 42 minutes. You know what I mean? End of story. That's how it goes. Clippers can't do that. Yeah. Clippers cannot do that just because of the positions of these players and the talent that they have as well, other than Kawhi and Paul George.
I agree. And looking over at the Eastern Conference, we have the series tied 1-1 between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Atlanta Hawks. Shane, how do you see this series going down?
Well, I think the Bucks woke up after game one and said, okay, enough's enough here because, look at. I'll give Trae Young all the credit. I think he's a talented young man, great player in many ways. But they gave him way too much freedom to do his thing, and that cost him. And in the second game, boom! Not only did you shut him down in many ways, but Capella only I think had like 2 points, right? Which is a huge thing for your center in that way. To shut him down, John Collins was obsolete. But Bogdanovic, he's injured. I mean, he is not playing even close, to his talent right now. So there's something that's really lingering, and they're relying on Gallinari and Huter there to pick up the pace. So I just think Bucks have right now Middleton, Drew Holiday, even Brook Lopez, those guys like that. They are playing as a solid team. Give Giannis the ball. Just, he's going to get fouled and not great at the free throws, but he's a lot better than what they've seen. But he's making things happen, and that's it. And if you can get the perimeter shooting, you're going to be fine.
Yep. What do you think, Mike?
Okay. Series is tied 1-1. The Hawks are somehow keeping up with the Bucks in this series. Granted, the second game I'll make as a little outlier, but the Hawks are somehow keeping up with the Bucks. I could have said the same for the Nets, having pushed the Bucks to 7, but if the Hawks are somehow able to make the NBA Finals and oust the Bucks, it'll be because of Trae Young. The man is a beast. He can put up 40 points per game on a nightly basis. He's the future of this Atlanta Hawks franchise. He's the future of the NBA. And Ben Simmons is not the future of the NBA. It's Trae Young. He will be the reason that the Hawks make the NBA Finals.
Yeah. Definitely if the Hawks make the NBA Finals, but I got to agree with Shane. I don't see the Hawks winning this series. I see the Hawks being very scrappy. I see them kind of pushing Milwaukee a little bit, but I think overall, I got to agree with Shane there. I see Milwaukee Bucks taking the series and coming back.
Giannis is on his own planet. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. That guy's making more things happen. Basically, they've said here, just take it to the net. That's all you got to do is take it to the net. You're not going to necessarily get in front of him because he's very quick, more speed than people can actually imagine out there. And the length that he has, his reach and stuff, is making it a lot more difficult for players. So, like I said, I just think that tonight's game is going to dictate a little bit more exactly the pace that this Bucks team is going.
Yep. And turning the page a little bit to the NHL, we have the Lightning going up against the Canadiens, USA versus Canada. Shane, can the Canadiens beat the Lightning?
Well, I think the Canadiens are going to take this one. I think you're right now looking at you're looking at the hottest goaltender in the league. I mean, that's what's keeping them in this. And unless you've got a hot goaltender, you're in trouble. And right now, the way Price is playing, I mean, he's taken this team and he has made it without a doubt very personal to say that puck ain't getting by me, and he's made it that way. And that team has responded. They've played it all four lines the way they're supposed to. Tampa, I give Tampa credit in ways of being a very physical, demanding, feisty team. There's no question about it. But yet they're still having their issues in many ways of taking bad penalties. They're doing a lot of things to get under the skin. And they showed that against the Islanders. And I like the Islanders in that way too. But I just think Tampa's going to get themselves in a little bit more trouble in the power play. And it's going to open things up for Montreal. And I think that's the way Montreal's going to play. Montreal played tough teams. Montreal played physical with all of their teams too when they needed to, but they weren't in the box taking bad penalties like the other teams did. So like I said, I mean, I just think you got a hot goaltender who's going to lead them. And Tampa does too. Tampa's got a great goaltender as well, but I don't think he is quite as up there as what Price is playing right now. And that's why I said this is going to be a real interesting series. It's going to be a great series all across the board. Like you said, U.S. against Canada, etc., type of atmosphere and things like that. And really up here, they're cheering them on and things. And it's been 28 years since they won the Cup from Montreal.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, I think they
I think it was
last World Cup
93.
3. Yep.
Yep. So, like I said, there's a lot riding on this.
Yeah,
so I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, and it's good to see a team like Montreal get to the NHL Finals because they weren't ranked one of the top teams in this year's playoffs, Shane. I think yeah.
They were low.
Yeah.
Like the way the divisions were split up. It was like Vancouver, then them. Ottawa, Vancouver, and them. Right. So they were at the bottom. The top teams that were supposed to make it out of here for the North Division, they're gone. They were wiped out in the first round. You know what I mean? That just shows exactly the timing of when a team is playing on all cylinders coming into the playoffs and how it's a whole new ball game for them. And these guys have done it. These guys have taken it to Winnipeg. They've taken it to Colorado, to Vegas. I mean, they've done it all. They've done it all, and they've made it now to the Cup, and they deserve that. They deserve that opportunity. And I just think, though, that Tampa is going to see a very good Montreal team, and especially the best part about this, these guys haven't faced each other at all season.
Exactly. So it's going to be a very good series, and that's one of the things I like about hockey is that you can get a team like the Montreal Canadiens, who weren't ranked really high, all the way to the NHL Finals. You look at the other sports, and usually it's a top team. Like you look at baseball, it could be the Dodgers or a team like that. But in hockey, anything can happen. Like you said, you get a hot goaltender, and a team can ride that goaltender all the way to the Stanley Cup. Which could be the case with the Canadiens. Absolutely. Yeah.
And the other crazy part too is they're still playing without their head coach, who's in COVID protocol.
That's true. In fact, the current head coach has a Flyer connection, Shane.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like I said, there's a lot of things that are in favor right now that are showing how determined this team is and how much they are ready to play. And like I said, I think it's going to be a great series, and I'm more excited with the fact that they haven't faced each other too, because you're going to see two different kind of styles, and they're both going to try to take over to figure out, no, we're going to play our game. We're not going to play your game. You know what I mean? So this is where I'm saying it's going to get pretty interesting. You might see a little bit of sloppiness right off the hop, but I think you're going to see a unique type of game in this way.
I think so too. And Mike, Shane, let me get your prediction on the series. Do you think the Canadiens take it, or will Tampa Bay win the Stanley Cup?
No, I'm going to take Montreal on this one, just because I do think that they are going to take this team just the way the momentum's flowing. But I do think that this game is going to go 6. I think the game's going to go 6 games.
Yep. And what do you think, Mike?
Well, first off, I still think it should have been the Islanders, but it had to be Chris Lee officiating Game 7. I think he had a stake in that Game 7. Plus, in Game 5, there was a too many men on the ice penalty, as well as in Game 7, that were not called. Thanks a lot, Chris Lee. You are the Tim Donaghy of the NHL. But I digress. As for this series, I'm picking Montreal in a sweep.
Really? 4 games?
4 games. Bye-bye, Tampa Bay. You lose.
I'm gonna go Montreal in 7 games. I think this series is going to be scrappy. I think it's going to be a really good series. I think it's going to go 7 games, and I think Montreal will take the Stanley Cup.
I'd love to see Montreal take the Stanley Cup on home ice in Game 4.
That would be really cool. What do you think, Shane? Montreal winning the Stanley Cup on their home ice.
No, I mean ideally that's exactly what you want. There's no question about that. And I mean anything's possible. There's no question. I just think that the way these teams play, and Tampa being the way they are too, of making certain comebacks at certain game times is important to say, okay, to sweep them would be great, but I just can't see it being a sweep. I think Tampa's going to throw 1-2 out there and take a couple, whether it's going to be at home or away. I think this is how this series is going to be kind of up in arms of. splits, 1-1s, and then kind of filtering down from there.
All Montreal needs to do is take one in Tampa, then hold serve at home, and they have it.
Yeah, easier said than done.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you've got a hot goaltender like Carey Price and a young, talented core led by Cole Caulfield, you've basically got this one.
As long as Plant and Stamkos and the rest of them don't get hot, you know what I mean? And you hope Carey Price can do what he's supposed to do, and I do think he will. But like I said, you can't underestimate Tampa's goaltender either. I mean, this fella can play. Yeah. This guy can play, and he's played in overtimes more than pretty much everyone in some ways. So, like I said, he's going to be their icebreaker for those guys.
I agree, and shifting the conversation a little bit over to the NFL. We had a big NFL story break this week, Shane. An NFL player came out as being gay this week. You know, yep. and that kind of shakes things up, I think, a little bit in the NFL. I'm proud of him. He should. I think this may encourage more players within the NFL, because I think there are more players that are gay. I think this may encourage other players to come out. And he plays for the Raiders, Shane.
He does. He's part of our Vegas team and stuff. I mean, like I said, hey, as a Raider, you got no fear of anything. So, I mean, good for him for stepping up and coming out and being, like I said, the year, the centuries, everything that we're living in now, the decades, this is life, okay? And it's simple as that. And for him to finally feel comfortable and realize that it's time, you know what I mean? And instead of hiding things and feeling not like he's got any support or anything like this, not only with his team, with the league, with organizations, with everything like that. And like I said, I mean, he's going to step up. He's going to be a role model for others. And you're going to start seeing more and more in the sports, in the professional leagues, of athletes of all over coming out of their own, gender, of what they want and what they're doing and things like this. So like I said, I mean, it's going to come out. It's going to happen. And you're going to start seeing more of it too. So, I mean, that's just all it comes down to. And really, you support your team, you support the players. And as a player that would be in that locker room too, that's personal choices of life and everything like this. And like I said, we're on a team. We're here to win. We need to win. We need each other. We cover each other's backs. The coaches are all involved in this way too. So like I said, let teams play. But my big thing though is also getting it to the public and to others out there and saying there's no sense trying to hide things, because it's not worth it anymore in life. You now come out, be proud of who you are, be proud of what the success that you've got and you've achieved, get the support that is there for you, and just embrace it.
I agree. What did you think, Mike?
Wait, hang on. Gotta recompose myself. Where?
What did you think about Carl Nassib coming out as the NFL's openly gay player?
It's a sign of progress. It's going to open the floodgates for more openly gay players in our major sports leagues. And we're starting to become more accepting of the LGBTQ community, not just in our society, but in the sports world as well. But he's going to have a problem, and that problem is Richie Incognito, someone who is homophobic, and he's gotten into trouble for being homophobic. So we'll see how he clicks with Incognito, who I cannot stand for the life of me.
I'm not a big Incognito fan myself, Mike, but do you think that would be a problem in the locker room, Shane?
No, not anymore.
No.
You're gonna the way the game is set up and stuff, and the players and everything like this. There's too many. Look at Incognito is who he is, and there's many players out there that are same mentality at certain things. Yeah. Players can change, right? Players can change, and players can also just kind of say, agree. "I'm going to mind my own business too." You know what I mean? And that's it. Fine,
you better mind your own business.
But as a team, your job is to win, and you need each other out there in that way. So, like I said, how it filters down. There are too many other players that are going to intervene in ways to keep it civil and everything like this too, of how the locker room has to be, because the last thing you want is distraction, disruptions, and everything like this. And I think we're past that in so many ways. You just move on, you move forward, and that's all it's going to be. So, like I said, I mean, really, that I'm not worried about incognito or anything like this. I mean, I don't think others should be too, because they're going to play the way they want to play. They're going to think the way they want to think. And there's too many other players that are backing you for your decisions of how you want to live your life and be. So, it's no different than all these other fancy guys that come in there too, that I've dealt with and worked with too, that, like I said, you're spending $100,000 on a watch. You're spending $300,000 on a car. You're doing all this. You're coming in all flash and stuff, but yet you can't catch a damn football. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Really, it's kind of like saying, man, you suck out there, but you play the role. You know what I mean? So everyone's going to have their own opinions of certain things, okay? But in the end, you're there as a team player. You're there to win. The coaches demand that from you. They expect that from you. Everybody expects it. You need to work and worry about yourself out there. So like I said, I mean, to me, I don't think it's going to be any issues in that way. I think if anything, the issues are going to be is how much press coverage comes at start of the season, because that becomes the distraction. There's going to be lots of press coverage. There's going to be lots of things when this team starts taking the field. Then we're going to see if others start to do the same from their teams and things like this. And like I said, that can sometimes, the questions get asked, especially after games. You know what I mean? When and you lost or something like this, you can get frustrated. You know what I mean? So like I said, I think that's going to be the only distraction, is how the press handles this whole thing come season time.
Yeah, I agree. I think players will ignore the fact that in the locker room, mostly will ignore the fact that Nassib is gay. I think as long as you're playing your part and as long as you're helping us win, I think that's kind of like you said, Shane. I think that's the bottom line. If you're on the field, if you're playing your heart out and you're helping us win and you're doing the best you can, I don't care what you do outside of the locker room. That's your life. That you lead your life outside of the locker room. But once you come into that locker room, you got to play your heart out. You got to help us win. And as long as you're doing that, as long as you're fitting in, as long as you're being a good teammate, then I think, the fact that, Nassib is gay will not play a part in dividing the LA Raiders locker room.
Las Vegas Raiders.
That's right. Las Vegas. That's right. So, Mike, what do we got coming up on NASCAR?
It's part 2 of the Pocono doubleheader today on NBCSN. Green flag just after 3:30. And you've got a very tricky track, Pocono Raceway. Only 3 turns, but 3 distinctive turns. Turn 1 was modeled after the old Trenton Speedway at 14 degrees. Turn 2 modeled after Indianapolis Motor Speedway at 8 degrees. Turn 3 modeled after the Milwaukee Mile, only 6 degrees of banking. And yesterday, Kyle Larson was 1 turn away from his 4th victory in a row when he blew a tire. So anything can happen at Pocono Raceway, and it more than likely will.
Gotcha. And do you have a prediction?
I picked Kevin Harvick in the fantasy league that I'm in.
Okay.
But I'm going to pick Kyle Larson for payback.
Okay, sounds good, Mike. I will ask you guys, any final words? Anything we missed this week on the Sports Skillet Show?
No, you know what I think? I think we covered everything. I think we're going to watch and see what happens with the NBA playoffs moving forward. I think the other thing maybe next week we'll start getting a little bit more word on how the NFL and the OTAs went, especially with teams like Mr. Aaron Rodgers and how they're looking at Love out there, Jordan Love, and also on how I believe Mr. Fields out there in Chicago has been looking and playing. I mean, they're really impressed with certain things, but they also know, he understands how he's going to be maybe Dalton's backup at this particular time, and he seems to be okay with that. But the thing I did hear out of Jacksonville was Trevor Lawrence doesn't quite seem to be ready as that number 1 guy. And that's one thing that I think is going to bring up a lot more in the next few weeks, is that coming from the head coach is that, yes, he's the number one quarterback. We're going to get him ready to be number one, but he's not our number one right now ready. So there's a lot of cryptic messages in there and stuff that they're not quite comfortable with how Trevor is picking up this offense, I think. So it's going to be interesting in the next few weeks, I think.
Yeah, and what about Tebow on that team, Shane? You know, trying to make a comeback as a tight end. I think it's a huge publicity stunt by the team.
It is. It's a terrible, insulting move in some ways, especially for that organization, but also to other tight ends that are saying, "Come on, man! You know, I mean, I'm the guy that should be out there playing. I'm a starter. You got guys now sitting on the bench who know that could fit into that role, and this guy comes out there to try to take your job and was just doing a publicity stunt. You know what I mean? Yeah. Nah, I'm not impressed with that type of crap. But like I said, I think the NFL is going to have a few things happening in the next little bit with some of these players and certain teams too that we're going to get a little bit more gossip on. I
think so too. So we want to encourage you to tune in again next week. Again, you can find us on our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whole 9 yards. We want to thank you for tuning in. And Shane, once again, how can people find you and what you got coming up?
Yeah, you can get me at mentaledgeperformance.ca as well as on the social media at mental_edge_performance. Look forward to it, gentlemen. It's been a blast, and we will talk next week.
We will. And thank you, Mike, as well, Mike Nevia. We will have you back on the show again next week. Again, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Hope everybody had a great Father's Day last weekend. Shane, happy Father's Day to you. I didn't get to wish it to you on the show last week, but happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you, sir. It was awesome.
All right. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody, and we'll see you right back here again next week for the Sports Skillet Radio Show.